My name is Charles, and I live in a small town named Maplewood. I work at a grocery store, and my daily life often feels like one big worry. I'm not the kind of person who easily makes ends meet. Every month, my paycheck seems to disappear before I even take a breath. I dream of saving enough money to go to college, but every time I think about it, I feel weighed down by bills and expenses. My mornings start with an alarm that feels too early, and like clockwork, I rush out the door, not even having time for breakfast. My shifts are long, and while I do my best to provide good service to customers, my mind often drifts to the money I don't have. I feel stressed. The thought of my bills keeps me up at night, nagging at my brain like a persistent itch. Sometimes, when I'm stocking shelves, I catch myself wondering if I will ever be free from this worry. My friends are often able to spend money on things they enjoy, and I feel a twinge of jealousy. The truth is, I want to change my situation, yet I struggle to see a way out of this maze of worries. I know I need to be smarter about my finances, but I'm not sure how. That's when I start to think that there might be a different path, a way to save money, if only I could be strategic about it. As I decided to take control of my finances and improve my skills, the first challenge quickly crept in. I was determined to focus on saving money and finding ways to make my paycheck stretch. Each day, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook, ready to outline a plan. But reality hit me hard. My mind felt all jumbled, and distractions surrounded me. The sounds of the neighborhood drifted in through the window, kids playing, cars passing by, and even the ice cream truck's cheerful jingle. It was nearly impossible to concentrate, and before I knew it, an hour had slipped away. At first, I tried to ignore these distractions, pushing myself to stay focused on my goals. I tried different techniques to dive into deep work, thinking they would help me concentrate better. One popular method I read about suggested using a timer. So, I set my timer for 20 minutes, promising myself to work hard and focus only on my money-saving goals. Unfortunately, the moment the timer started, my mind began to wander. I thought about the grocery store, the customers I had to serve later, and even what I wanted for dinner. After just a short time, I'd abandon my notes and pick up my phone instead. I told myself, just a quick check, but those quick checks turned into long scrolls through social media. Frustration bubbled up inside me. Was I really this weak? Why was it so hard to stay on track? My old habits were like chains, holding me back from moving forward. I started doubting myself. What was wrong with me? Could I ever really learn to save money and become disciplined? Each night, I lay in bed, the weight of my worries heavier than ever. It felt like I was stuck in a dark place, searching for a way out but only finding more doubts. Then, one day, as I was cleaning the store, I overheard two customers discussing a book. They talked about how it could change their lives. It was all about managing money and strategies for saving. Intrigued, I caught the title, The Total Money Makeover, by Dave Ramsey. For the first time in a while, a spark ignited in my heart. Maybe I needed a fresh perspective, something new to guide me. After my shift, I searched for the book online and found a digital library that offered it to borrow. When I got home, I couldn't wait to dive into it. As I started reading, something began to click. The book had stories from others who had faced struggles like mine. They shared their failures and how they pushed through. I was surprised to learn that many people also struggled to focus. But they learned to make changes step by step. I began to feel a little lighter, knowing that I was not alone. It was just the beginning, but I could feel a shift within myself. I realized it was okay to take small steps. Every little effort counted, and maybe, just maybe, I could find my way out of this storm. I decided I wouldn't give up and would keep pushing forward, one small step at a time. Fueled by the inspiration I'd found in the book, I decided to put some of what I learned into action. One afternoon, while I was taking my shift at the grocery store, I felt the weight of my plan pressing down on me. I wanted to be strategic about my time and my money, so I took a deep breath and promised myself that I would give it my all. I sat down in the break room, determined to focus. The noise of the store around me faded into the background as I opened my notebook. I used the timer again, setting it for 25 minutes this time. My heart raced with both excitement and anxiety. I thought about the strategies I had read about and began writing down my spending habits. I had kept a loose track of daily expenses, but now I aimed for clarity. With each line, I felt a sense of control that I had not felt before. I recognized my small unnecessary purchases, the snacks I grabbed here and there or the coffee every morning. One small win felt monumental, even if it was just beginning to see my spending on paper rather than ignoring it. As the timer went off, I experienced a wave of satisfaction. I had focused. I had managed to concentrate and make smart choices for a brief moment. My confidence was growing, and for the first time, I felt hopeful about my money-saving challenge. It wasn't easy, but slipping back into my old habits felt less tempting as I kept carrying those victories with me. The day after, however, tested my resolve in a way I did not expect. The store was busy, more chaotic than usual. Customers lined up, and the sound of carts crashing and voices chatting filled the air. I could feel the pressure rising around me, and it was hard to breathe. My manager asked me to handle a tricky customer who was unhappy about the prices. In the moment, stress flooded my mind. I felt my old reactions returning. Instead of calmly addressing the customer as I had hoped to do, my words got tangled up, and I stumbled through the conversation. When the customer walked away, I couldn't help but feel disappointed in myself. Afterward, I took a moment to reflect on what just happened. I had wanted to stay calm and focused, yet I felt like I had failed. It was challenging to hold on to my new mindset when the pressure was high. I reminded myself that everyone has rough moments. The book had stressed that change takes time. With a deep breath, I chose to believe this was a part of my journey. That night, I opened the book again. It spoke about not letting setbacks define me. Instead of feeling defeated, I realized every obstacle was a lesson. The small win in the break room was only the start, and though I wasn't where I needed to be yet, I was learning. I found that building my confidence would take patience, just like saving money. I read about how mastering one's mind requires practice, plus the willingness to stand back up after falling down. As I closed the book, I felt a spark of determination light up again. I understood this journey was about moving forward, regardless of the bumps along the way. I promised myself to keep learning and growing, one small step at a time. It was a Wednesday afternoon at the grocery store when everything changed. We were short-staffed, and the rush of customers felt endless. The moment I walked into the store, I could see the long line of carts waiting to check out. My heart sank, and a heavy knot formed in my stomach. For weeks, I had worked on controlling my emotions, focusing my thoughts, and applying what I learned about money and responsibility. But now, the chaos threatened to unravel everything I had built up so far. As I rushed to help a group of customers, my manager called me into the office, where he had bad news. A big shipment of fresh fruits and vegetables had arrived, but there was now a problem. The delivery truck had damaged some items that could not be salvaged. We were facing a potential loss of a significant amount of money and, more importantly, a way to make the promised product available for our customers. He turned to me and said, "Charles, I need you to take charge and figure this out." In that moment, my mind raced with panic. It felt like a wave crashing over me, pulling me further down into doubt. My old self, the one that avoided responsibility, came roaring back. What if I messed this up? I had just started to feel more confident, but now I sensed the fear creeping in like an unwelcome fog. I suddenly questioned everything I had learned. What if my attempts to save money and make decisions were all for nothing? I took a deep breath, but it felt strained. My hands shook slightly as I tried to concentrate on the details my manager had given me. The pressure was mounting, and I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, afraid that one wrong step could send me crashing down. Customers were still waiting in line, glancing at their watches, wondering what was happening. Frustration bubbled in the air, and I could sense the tension around me. With all eyes on me, I felt completely exposed. As I glanced at the customers, my heart raced, and my stomach twisted with anxiety. I began to fumble through my thoughts, recalling the lessons from the book. Stay calm, I told myself. You can do this. Take it step by step. Yet, the echoes of self-doubt whispered louder. My heart screamed, what if you fail? What if you can't manage? As I looked back at my manager, I could see his hope resting on my shoulders. I knew I needed to put my fears aside and take action. For a moment, I felt stuck, trapped in my anxiety. But then, I remembered the small victories I had reached, meeting my focus goal, the compliments from customers on how I handled the tricky situation before. These moments began to flicker in my mind like scattered clouds parting for sunlight. I bit my lip, pushing through the doubts and making the decision to step into the challenge. Okay, let's do this, I told myself, feeling the tension settle just a bit. I called the team together and quickly outlined a plan to rework the stock on the floor, creating a deal for the produce still fresh. It wouldn't solve everything, but maybe it would help us regain the customer's trust while controlling our losses. The journey was far from easy, my heart still pounding, but I decided to take a stand, determined to prove to myself that I could rise up to this big challenge. Despite my best efforts, the pressure of the situation only seemed to grow heavier. The crowd of impatient customers at the checkout was relentlessly pushing me further into uncertainty. As I juggled orders and tried to organize the stock with little help, the weight of my responsibilities felt as if it was crashing down on me. My heart raced, and my thoughts spiraled into a storm of despair. What if I wasn't good enough to handle this? What if all my dreams of saving money and taking control of my life came crumbling down with this unfortunate incident? As the minutes ticked away, a feeling of defeat began to settle over me. With the other staff preoccupied with their tasks, I felt isolated, lost in my own mind. I could feel my confidence disappearing like smoke in the wind. Sitting down for a moment, I let the chaos swirl around me. Maybe this is too much, I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible over the noise. Maybe I should just give up on trying to change. In that moment, everything felt dark and heavy. A strange sense of helplessness washed over me as I buried my face in my hands. I thought back to all my efforts, the hours of trying to focus, the reading and planning, the little victories I had built for myself. And yet, here I was, feeling even more uncertain than before, caught in a never-ending cycle of doubt. Just as I was about to wallow deeper into my disappointment, I heard the familiar voice of my coworker, Maria. She must have noticed my struggle as she walked over, watching me silently for a second. "Hey, Charles, you okay?" she asked softly. It was clear she saw the weight I was carrying, and something in that moment broke through my self-pity. I didn't answer immediately, but Maria's concern pulled me back from the edge. "You know," she continued, "I remember when I was in a tough spot about a year ago. I felt hopeless then, too. But a wise friend told me that every hard moment is a chance to learn." Her words were like a key unlocking something inside me. As her story unfolded, I could hear how she had struggled with her own challenges, feeling lost and frustrated. But instead of giving up, she pushed through, finding ways to cope, and eventually transformed her life. She had chosen to view each obstacle as a lesson, something to help her grow stronger. Suddenly, I felt a spark ignite inside me. It was as if her words shattered the dark clouds surrounding my thoughts. I remembered my purpose for wanting to change. I wanted to save money not just for myself, but to attend college and build a better future. I thought about the feeling I had when I decided to take charge of my finances and my life. That fire of hope had not vanished, it just needed a little fuel to reignite. With renewed perspective, I stood up, drawing in a deep breath. The reality of how I could tackle this big challenge began flooding back to me. I had learned to improve my focus, I had started recognizing my beliefs and adapting to setbacks. It was time to lean on those lessons. I decided that instead of feeling hopeless, I would shift my mindset and take action. My work was not just a job, it was a stepping stone toward the growth journey I had started so deliberately. In this instant, everything changed for me. I realized with clarity, every setback was not just an ending, but an opportunity to learn and come back stronger. In my breaking point, I found the insight that resilience isn't about dodging failure, it's about rising up each time we fall, understanding more about ourselves along the way. Instead of giving up, I knew I had to keep going, one step at a time. With a newfound determination sparking inside me, I took a moment to breathe deeply. Maria's words echoed in my mind, urging me to push forward. I realized that giving up was not an option. Instead, I needed to embrace the challenge in front of me. My journey so far had not been easy, but each step had prepared me for moments like these. Gathering my thoughts, I surveyed the chaotic scene around me. Customers were growing restless, their eyes darting between the pile of where fresh produce should be and my trying figure. I had come too far to let myself be overwhelmed now. Each second counted, a sense of urgency hung in the air. I rolled up my sleeves and began to act. I called my coworkers over, piecing together a quick plan. "Let's work as a team," I said, my voice steady but firm, even as I felt it quiver under pressure. "We need to get this shipment sorted quickly and find a way to show our customers we're still providing the best service." They nodded, some showing signs of relief at having direction in the chaos. First, I divided tasks among the team. I assigned one coworker to manage the cash register, while another helped me drop the unaffected fruits and vegetables at the front of the store to replace the damaged ones. It felt exhilarating to make these choices rather than feeling lost. As I directed everyone, a flicker of confidence replaced fear, pushing me to tackle each step carefully. However, the struggle was real. As we rushed to clear the mess, I could see more problems arising. The angry customer who had been at the checkout returned to voice their complaints again. My heart sank, and a wave of doubt hit, but I refused to let it stop me. Remembering my lessons on emotional control, I took a deep breath before responding. "I understand how frustrated you must be, and I truly apologize for the delay. We're actively working to resolve this issue, and I really appreciate your patience." As I spoke, I watched their angry expression gradually shift. This small moment reminded me that overcoming my own difficulties could help me deal with others. I realized that empathy and understanding were part of opening doors. Little by little, a connection started to bridge the gap between us. They finally nodded and stepped aside, reassured I was doing my best. As the minutes went by, we began to see progress. Our teamwork allowed us to display the fresh produce enticingly, drawing customers back to the aisles. I guided the rest of the employees on stocking fresh items and creating small promotional signs that pointed out the deals. The atmosphere began to change. I felt the rush of adrenaline as I moved from one task to another, every moment propelling me forward. Yet, the finite nature of time pressed on me as we sped to meet customer expectations. I could still hear my heart thudding loudly in my chest with each decision I made. Whenever I stumbled over my words or felt worn out, it reminded me of the old self who could easily have given in to the pressure. Embracing that awareness, I pressed on, fortified by the necessity of resilience. Finally, as the clock ticked down, everything fell into place. The produce and promotions were set up, customers were engaging, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't an effortless victory, every moment had taken focus and drive. But in that struggle, I had navigated my doubts and fears, and it had led to success. As I stepped back to observe our progress, I felt proud of what we had accomplished together. Not only had I overcome the obstacle, but I had done it with a renewed belief in myself. I had faced my old habits and transformed them into strategies that worked. This experience had shown me that through resilience and teamwork, anything could be managed. Indeed, this was not merely a job but a cultivation of growth I aimed to replicate, not only here but in all aspects of my life moving forward. As the dust settled and the store began to quiet down, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. The chaotic afternoon was finally behind us, and I leaned against the counter to catch my breath. Despite feeling drained, a sense of triumph surged within me. We had managed to make the most of a challenging situation. The customers seemed satisfied, and the store had bounced back. I realized that we had all pulled together, not just demanding the usual goals, but giving more of ourselves in overcoming adversity. I looked around at my coworkers. They wore tired but proud expressions. It felt like we had just finished a challenging yet unifying team sport, celebrating a victory that had seemed out of reach at the start of the day. I noticed Maria smile at me from across the room, and I returned the gesture, feeling a true bond shared from this experience. I was grateful not only for their help but also for the lessons we learned together. Reflecting on the day, I couldn't help but admire my personal growth. I once feared stepping into responsibility, but today I pushed past my comfort zones. I had managed my anxiety and stepped forward when I felt like running away. When the old feelings of doubt rose like a tidal wave, I chose to take action instead of allowing them to suffocate me. That surge of anxiety no longer defined my response, rather, it had become a familiar challenge I could rise against. I thought about other moments from my past. In times when I had shied away out of fear, I realized how much I had limited myself. Bouncing from job to job, feeling lost in life's labyrinth, it was like being trapped in a cage without even realizing the door was open. But now, through this difficult circumstance, I saw things differently. The experience had given me not just strength but a deeper understanding of myself. It dawned on me that winning isn't always about achieving a specific goal. Sometimes, the most profound victories come in the form of insights we gain along the way. I didn't just help the grocery store survive a hectic day, I developed grit and resilience within myself that went beyond simple tasks. Instead of viewing challenges defensively as obstacles, I began to see them as a means of growth. Even as I took pride in our success, I knew that the journey didn't end here. There would be more obstacles, not just at work but in many aspects of life. The keys to securing my dreams of saving enough to go to college required a commitment to face my fears and tackle what was posed ahead, just as I did today. I had learned that pushing through the stress of busy days and taking control of overwhelming moments reshaped me into someone stronger than I had been yesterday. I now saw every challenge as part of a larger narrative, my growth story. In the weeks to come, I would remind myself of this lesson. It was more than just about making money or achieving professional milestones, it was about the journey of gaining mental strength and tackling fears. That realization filled me with hope for the future and a drive to pursue my goals. I couldn't wait to take this new mindset forward, striving to apply these lessons not only in work but also in my personal life, shaping the future I envisioned for myself. Today was just the beginning, and I intended to keep building alongside my dreams. In the weeks that followed the chaotic day at the grocery store, I could feel a palpable shift in my mindset. Instead of being overwhelmed by the distractions and doubts that once plagued me, I approached each day with a sense of purpose and clarity. Routine tasks began to feel less like chores and more like opportunities to grow. I was becoming someone new, someone resilient. Each morning, I woke up a few minutes earlier, giving myself time to sit quietly and reflect on my goals and what I wanted to achieve that day. I would take a deep breath, thinking about the challenges I may face, and plan how I would navigate them. This practice filled me with a calm confidence, allowing me to start the day on my terms rather than letting the day dictate the pace. At work, I was no longer the shy guy moving from task to task while hoping to blend into the background. Instead, I actively engaged with my coworkers and tackled new responsibilities head-on. I began volunteering to help train new employees, sharing my tips for managing workflow and customer service. It felt great passing on the lessons I had learned. I could see a spark of encouragement in their eyes, much like what I had felt when Maria first shared her journey with me. What surprised me was how my shift in perspective influenced those around me. My coworkers began to rally together more, fueled by this atmosphere of shared growth and encouragement. I saw Tasha, usually quiet in meetings, begin to voice her opinions. "I learned from you, Charles," she told me one day. "If you can push through that hectic day, I can offer my ideas for our project." Her words filled me with warmth and pride. It felt as if I were part of creating something bigger, a positive environment where everyone could grow. Though I no longer battled the familiar distractions of my past, I embraced challenges that required creativity and diligence. I remembered to prioritize my goals, handling unexpected tasks with a bulletproof mindset. Where stress used to paralyze me, it now urged me to act. One afternoon, while I was stacking shelves, an issue arose. Our delivery of some popular snacks arrived late, leaving us in a difficult spot with customers wanting those products. A few weeks before, I might have panicked, but this time was different. I calmly assessed the situation and quickly devised a plan. I suggested promoting alternatives we had in stock and offered a small discount on those items, making them more appealing to customers while minimizing our loss. My manager noticed my decision-making skills. "Great job, Charles. I can see the change in your approach," he praised me, sparking a buzz of pride inside me. That acknowledgement made all my efforts worthwhile. It was proof that I was not simply hoping to change, I was changing. Since improving in my career, I also found myself focusing on other areas of my life. I began budgeting my expenses closely, using the strategies I learned from that impactful book. I tracked my spending, discovering areas where I could trim the fat, and I was thrilled to watch my savings account steadily grow. Outside of work, I used these optimistic habits to face personal errands and commitments as well. Whether it was going for a run in the morning or showing up to volunteer events in our community, I embraced every task with the same refreshed mindset. I even started to study for a college entrance exam, knowing that each small step was pushing me closer to my dream. Looking back, I was astonished at how the events of a single hectic day transformed my perspective. I embraced each challenge, unafraid to put myself out there and grow. Others could see my self-assurance. Even more gratifying was blessed with the knowledge that I could face anything that might come my way. I was not merely surviving my daily routine, I was thriving, empowered by the lessons learned on my journey. As time passed, I came to understand that my experience at the grocery store was about more than just managing tasks on busy days, it was about understanding myself and cultivating resilience. I stood in front of the large window at the break room, with sunlight pouring in, feeling lighter than I had in a long while. The reflections in the glass reminded me of who I was a few months earlier, the anxious guy who felt overwhelmed by the simplest of challenges. Now, I felt transformed. Confidence radiated from within, a solid foundation ready to weather any storm. Every part of my day was infused with a sense of purpose. I welcomed challenges instead of fearing them. I no longer shied away from the idea of stepping up and taking the lead whenever the situation called for it. When new shipments arrived or the unexpected arose, I calmly assessed the situation with a clear head. Small setbacks no longer spiraled me into darkness, instead, I viewed them as ground for growth. Positivity had become my compass. During one of our weekly staff meetings, we were encouraged to share our thoughts on maximizing customer experience during rush hours. I found myself eager to contribute my insights, ideas born from my journey of overcoming stress and distraction. I spoke about how maintaining a clear focus not only helped me manage tasks but also increased customer satisfaction. My coworkers listened intently, nodding in agreement, excited by the prospect of hands-on changes in our routines. As I wrapped up my thoughts, I felt a rush of exhilaration. I was becoming a part of something bigger, realizing my voice had worth. The mutual respect and collaboration among my team fostered an environment conducive to growth and resilience. I could see everyone, including myself, evolving. It wasn't just about getting through each day at work, together, we were striving to be better at our jobs, and I could feel that spark ignite among us all. In private moments, I continued to reflect on that pivotal day filled with chaos. I recognized that it had become more than just a tough challenge, it was a lesson in perseverance. I had faced my fears, tapping into a well of strength I didn't know existed, and I took it as a reminder that I could navigate any hurdles ahead of me. I often thought back to the feelings of isolation I faced when I doubted my abilities, and I was grateful for experiencing that. It nourished my empathy for others along their journey. Ultimately, I learned that growth isn't merely a linear path filled with achievements but a series of insights woven together through experiences, failures, and successes. Each challenge faced was not the end, rather, it was an invitation to rise again, stronger armed with knowledge. I felt grateful to have these insights, slowly maturing feelings of gratitude within me. Now, with dreams of going to college and building a brighter future, I stood poised at the threshold of opportunity. While I knew life would bring new challenges, and they would undoubtedly emerge, I was ready to embrace them. The steady beat of determination echoed within me as I envisioned my plans for the future. I felt prepared to face anything with an open mind and heart, knowing I had the tools to adapt and grow. I glanced towards my colleagues and noticed a shared sentiment of connectedness, all of us healing and working together, becoming more resilient. As I inhaled deeply, I couldn't help but smile. In this moment, I understood that I was not just a stronger worker but a stronger person, emboldened by lessons learned through trials. The horizon stretched wide before me, and whatever challenges lay ahead, I would embrace them, determined to write the next chapter of my life journey, the journey of resilience and empowerment.